Chapter 1. Dawn in the Dark. Evelyn Stone grew up in an ordinary but loving family. She is introverted and petite. She is like a frightened deer in school, always quietly avoiding the noisy crowds. In the late autumn of her first year of high school, the weather turned cold and the atmosphere on campus became a little depressing. That afternoon, Evelyn walked towards the classroom along the familiar quiet alley with a few books she had just borrowed from the library. Suddenly, several tall girls appeared in front of her. Alicia, the leader, crossed her arms and had a disgusting and sarcastic smile on her face. "Hey, look who this is, little nerd Evelyn, holding so many books. Are you planning to move the library home?" Alicia said in a sharp voice, and the sound was as harsh as nails scratching a blackboard. Her followers also laughed, and one girl even deliberately stretched out her foot to trip Evelyn. Evelyn's heart tightened and she subconsciously hugged the book in her arms. Her eyes revealed fear, but she still looked straight ahead stubbornly, not wanting these people to see her fear. "Your clothes today are really rustic, only you can wear them." Another follower stepped forward and stretched out his hand to pull Evelyn's clothes. Evelyn took a step back but bumped into another girl behind her. She almost fell to the ground and several books in her hands fell. At this chaotic moment, a burst of hurried footsteps came and David Harper appeared. He had just finished basketball training, still wearing a jersey with beads of sweat on his forehead, and the whole person exuded sunshine and vitality. Realizing that something was wrong, he quickly took out his mobile phone, pressed the camera button and shouted loudly, "Hey! What are you doing? Stop it!" David frowned, his eyes were full of anger and his aura was like an angry lion. Alicia and others were stunned for a moment, and were at a loss for what to do by David's actions. "What's your business, David? Stop meddling in other people's business." Although Alicia was tough, she took a step back unconsciously with a flash of panic in her eyes. David ignored her and continued to film with his mobile phone. He said coldly, "I filmed it all. I have the evidence of your bullying of classmates. If you don't want this video to be uploaded to the internet and seen by everyone in the school, get out of here." Hearing this, Alicia and others turned pale in an instant. You dare." Alicia shouted fiercely, but her voice was obviously weaker. David took a few steps forward and raised his mobile phone so that they could see more clearly. "Do you think I dare? Stop immediately and apologize to Evelyn, otherwise, you will be ruined." Under David's tough threat, Alicia and others panicked. Alicia bit her lip, glared at Evelyn fiercely and said reluctantly, "Sorry. I'm sorry." After that, she ran away with her followers. David put down his phone when he saw them leave and walked to Evelyn. The anger on his face instantly turned into a gentle smile. "Hey, are you okay? Don't be afraid, they won't dare to bother you again in the future." As he said, he bent down, helped Evelyn pick up the book on the ground and handed it to her. Evelyn raised her head and looked at David, her eyes full of gratitude, her voice trembling a little. "Thank you, David, if it weren't for you today, I really don't know what to do." David smiled and waved his hand. "It's a small matter, but this video must be kept. I don't know if they will do bad things in the future. Can you give me your contact information? I'll send you the video. If they dare to bully you again, you can take out this video and guarantee that they can be calmed down." Evelyn nodded quickly, and the two exchanged contact information. After sending the video, David patted Evelyn's shoulder again. "Don't worry, come to me anytime if you have anything." After that, he waved to Evelyn and turned away. Evelyn looked at his back and a different kind of warmth surged in her heart. From this moment on, David's figure was deeply imprinted in her heart. Chapter 2. The Journey of Secret Love. Ever since the heroic rescue in the alley, Evelyn began to silently pay attention to David's every move. Her attention to David, like the vines that grow quietly in spring, has unknowingly entangled her life. Every day during class, Evelyn always seems to pass by the basketball court inadvertently. In fact, she had already calculated in her mind that David would play at this time. She found an inconspicuous corner, stood there quietly and followed David's figure closely. David was full of energy on the court. When he jumped high to shoot, the sunlight shone on him, outlining his muscular figure. Evelyn was fascinated by him and her face flushed unconsciously. Every time David scored a beautiful goal, Evelyn wanted to cheer loudly, but she was afraid of attracting other people's attention. She could only hide this excitement in her heart and cheer him up silently in her heart. "David, you are great. In the classroom in the afternoon, the sunlight shone through the window, which was a bit dazzling. Evelyn found that David was sleeping on the desk, and his profile looked particularly quiet under the sunlight. Evelyn felt sorry that David might be disturbed by the sunlight. After hesitating for a while, she finally plucked up the courage and walked to the window lightly. She tiptoed slightly, stretched out her hand and carefully pulled the curtains, so gently that she was afraid of making any sound. In order to ensure that the sunlight would not shine on David again, she repeatedly adjusted the angle of the curtains until the dazzling light was completely blocked. After doing all this, Evelyn returned to her seat and looked at the sleeping David, with a gentle smile on her lips. In the school library, Evelyn often sat for hours, carefully flipping through aviation books, and frowning and studying repeatedly when she encountered something she didn't understand. Sometimes she would run to ask the teacher for a complex aviation term until she fully understood it. In the aviation interest group, Evelyn is also the most active one. She will discuss various aviation topics with her classmates in the group. Although she is not very good at expressing herself, her eyes will sparkle whenever it comes to aviation-related content. "Hey Evelyn, why are you suddenly so interested in aviation?" After a group activity, classmate Amy asked curiously. Evelyn blushed slightly and hesitantly said, "Well, I think aviation is cool, don't you think?" Amy shrugged. "Okay, but you've been working really hard recently. It feels like you're almost becoming an aviation expert." Evelyn smiled and didn't speak. Only she knew that all this was because of David. Days passed and high school life ended. Evelyn successfully entered a well-known university majoring in aviation management with her own efforts. In college, the study tasks were more onerous, but Evelyn never complained. She got up early every day to reserve a seat in the library, and often studied in the dormitory until late at night. Finally, hard work paid off. After graduation, Evelyn successfully entered the control center of the local international airport. And David also became an excellent captain through his own efforts, flying planes across the skies of the world. Chapter 3. The Opportunity of Reunion. One day, Evelyn received an invitation email to a high school reunion in her mailbox. The moment she saw the email, her mood instantly became extremely complicated, and her hand holding the mouse trembled slightly. Those painful memories of being bullied surged into her heart like a tide. Evelyn closed her eyes, took a deep breath and tried to calm her heart. She clearly remembered how those people had laughed at her and humiliated her, and those harsh words seemed to still echo in her ears. Thinking that she might meet Alicia's group of people who bullied her again, Evelyn's heart was full of resistance, and she even began to regret clicking on this email. She paced back and forth in the room, struggling in her mind. "No, I can't go. I don't want to face those bad memories again, and I don't want to be looked at by them with such malicious eyes again." But just as she was about to delete the email, David's figure flashed through her mind. Evelyn stopped, bit her lip, hesitated for a moment and thought, "Maybe I can see David at the party? Since he helped me drive away those bullies, we have rarely had a chance to talk properly." Once this idea appeared, it was like a seed that quickly took root and sprouted in her heart. In the end, Evelyn decided to face it bravely. She was going to attend the class reunion. On the night of the party, Evelyn carefully selected a simple yet elegant dress and put on light makeup to try to make herself look more confident. She came to the party venue, a lively bar, with trepidation. As soon as she entered the bar, noisy voices came to her face. Evelyn stood at the door a little stiffly, looking for David's figure in the crowd. However, before she found David, a sharp and familiar voice came over. "Hey, look, who is this, Evelyn? You dare to come to the party?" Evelyn's heart tightened and she turned her head and saw Alicia with a few followers, looking at her with a mocking face. Alicia looked Evelyn up and down with a scornful smile on her lips. "After so many years, you still look so rustic. I don't know how you have the courage to come here." Her followers also laughed, and the laughter was like a sharp knife, piercing Evelyn's heart. But now is different from the past. Evelyn has become stronger after these years of growth. She took a deep breath, raised her head and looked directly into Alicia's eyes without fear, with a sneer on her lips. "Alicia, after so many years, you still only use this childish way to show your presence? Do you think you are so powerful now? You are just a poor guy with an empty heart who can only rely on bullying others to find confidence." Evelyn's voice was not loud, but every word was clear and powerful. When the classmates around her heard her words, they couldn't help but cast surprised eyes. Alicia obviously didn't expect Evelyn to fight back, and her face turned pale in an instant. "What did you say?" At this time David's voice came from the crowd. "She is right, Alicia, can't you be quiet? After so many years you still haven't made any progress and you are still so annoying." David walked quickly to Evelyn's side, stood still and looked at Alicia coldly. Some other classmates also stood up to accuse Alicia. "That's right, you are so old and you still do these childish tricks. Is it fun to bully people?" Under the accusations of everyone, Alicia's face turned pale and red, and she opened her mouth but couldn't say anything. Finally, she glared at Evelyn fiercely and left with her followers in embarrassment. David turned around and looked at Evelyn, his eyes full of admiration. "Evelyn, you were so cool just now. I didn't expect you to fight back so bravely." Evelyn blushed slightly and said with a smile, "Maybe the experience over the years has taught me not to retreat. Thank you, David and everyone. If it weren't for you, I wouldn't have such courage." The classmates around her gathered around and gave her a thumbs up, and a crisis was successfully resolved. After the crisis was resolved, David took Evelyn to the side and found a quiet corner to sit down. He looked at Evelyn with interest and asked curiously, "Eve, what have you been busy with after graduation?" Evelyn smiled with a hint of pride in her eyes. "I am now working at the control center of our local international airport, dealing with airplanes and routes every day." David raised his eyebrows slightly with a hint of subtle surprise in his eyes and said calmly, "It's a coincidence that I am now a captain. In our work, one flies in the sky and the other commands on the ground, and the connection is quite close." Evelyn was also surprised. She didn't expect that the two of them had such a close professional connection. "Yes, it's incredible. In my daily work I have issued instructions to many flights, maybe including your flight." Through the conversation, Evelyn learned that David had just returned to China to start work. She couldn't help thinking secretly that there might be more intersections in the future because of work. But reason told her that she shouldn't have too many extravagant expectations. After all, life is full of variables. It is already a blessing to be able to communicate happily like this at this moment. Chapter 4. The Beginning of Marriage. After the class reunion, David's life returned to his usual busyness. But his parents' earnest and urgent words of urging him to get married at the family reunion were like a tight ring, always lingering in his ears. Every time he went home, his parents always persuaded him earnestly, "David, you are not young anymore, it's time to find a suitable person to settle down, get married and have children, so that we can also hold grandchildren earlier." Relatives also echoed on the side, which made David feel extremely irritated, but he could not escape. One day, David finished a long-distance flight mission and was bored in the lounge flipping through his mobile phone. Inadvertently, he saw the chat records with Evelyn at the class reunion, and the scenes of Evelyn talking about her work in the control center appeared in his mind. He suddenly realized that Evelyn's work was closely related to his own. The two had common topics and experiences in the aviation field, and they should get along well. Once this idea came into being, it quickly took root in his heart. David hesitated for a long time, rubbing his fingers on the screen of his mobile phone repeatedly. Finally, he mustered up the courage to send a message to Evelyn. "Evelyn, long time no see, are you busy recently? I want to ask you out to meet and talk about something." After sending the message, his heartbeat suddenly accelerated, and his eyes were fixed on the screen, fearing that he would miss Evelyn's reply. Not long after, Evelyn replied, "Okay, I'm quite free recently. When do you want to meet?" David breathed a sigh of relief and immediately replied, "Then tomorrow afternoon in the city center, the cafe we often went to in high school, do you remember?" Evelyn replied with a "okay." David looked at the screen of his mobile phone, and the corners of his mouth rose unconsciously. The next afternoon, David came to the cafe early. He sat by the window, tapping the table with his fingers from time to time, and looking at the door from time to time. When Evelyn walked into the cafe, David immediately stood up and waved to her. Evelyn was wearing a simple dress with a faint smile on her face, looking fresh and natural. "Long time no see, Evelyn," David said with a smile. "Long time no see, David," Evelyn responded. After the two sat down, they ordered their favorite coffee. After a brief greeting, David's expression became a little serious. He took a deep breath and said, Evelyn, actually I asked you out today because I have something to discuss with you. As you know, my parents have been urging me to get married and I am really forced by them. I think you are a very good person. Our work is also related and we have a lot in common. So I have a bold idea. Can you fake marriage with me? Evelyn's eyes widened in surprise when she heard this proposal, and the coffee cup in her hand almost slipped. She never thought that David asked her out to make such a request. Fake marriage? This is too sudden, I never thought of it. Evelyn stammered. David quickly explained, I know this idea is crazy, but it's just a stopgap measure. Let's pretend to get married to deal with my parents and after a while, find a suitable reason to say that we are separated. I promise that I won't cause you any trouble, and I will take good care of you in the process. Evelyn's heart was in a fierce struggle. On the one hand, she felt that this idea was too absurd and fake marriage was not a trivial matter. But on the other hand, she couldn't deny that she had always had a special feeling for David, and this might be an opportunity to get closer to David. She lowered her head and was silent for a long time, with a struggle in her heart. Finally, Evelyn raised her head, looked into David's eyes and plucked up the courage to say, Okay, David, I agree to fake marriage with you. Just treat it as a different experience for yourself. David heard Evelyn's answer and showed a surprised smile on his face. Really? Thank you so much, Evelyn. Don't worry, I won't let you regret this decision. In this way, Evelyn and David started a wonderful fake marriage journey. Their lives, because of this decision, have changed unexpectedly. David and Evelyn quickly went through the marriage procedures and started living under the same roof. At the beginning, both of them were a little uncomfortable. When they returned home at night, they would sit awkwardly in the living room, not knowing what to say. Once, David came home from get-off work and saw Evelyn cooking in the kitchen. Do you need help? David asked as he walked into the kitchen. Evelyn said a little flustered, No, I can do it myself. David scratched his head. Okay, then I'll go change my clothes. After that, he turned and left the kitchen, leaving Evelyn alone there, her heart beating faster. As time went on, the relationship between them gradually changed. One night, David was in a very low mood after completing a long-distance flight mission. He walked into the house and sat directly on the sofa, frowning and saying nothing. Evelyn noticed something was wrong with David. She walked over carefully, sat next to David and handed him a cup of hot coffee. David, what's wrong with you? Are you worried about something? David looked up and saw Evelyn's concerned eyes, and a warm feeling surged in his heart. He sighed and poured out all the unexpected situations and inner pressures he encountered during the flight. Evelyn listened quietly, nodded from time to time and gave comfort and encouragement. In order to make David happy, she also shared some interesting things she encountered in the control center. David was infected by her humor and optimism, and finally showed a long-lost smile on his face. Since then, their relationship has become closer, as if they have truly become a couple who support each other. Chapter 5. Intersection at Work. In the daily operation of the airport, Evelyn quickly stood out in the control center with her solid professional knowledge and calm personality. Every time she faced a complex flight scheduling situation, she could respond calmly and issue precise instructions to ensure that each aircraft took off and landed safely and orderly. Her voice spread throughout the airport through radio waves, clear, sweet and powerful, which made people feel at ease. One day, during the peak flight period, several planes requested to land almost at the same time, and air traffic instantly fell into a complicated situation. Evelyn sat in front of the control console, staring at the flight information flashing on the screen with her eyes focused, her brain working fast, quickly calculating the best landing order and time interval for each aircraft. She picked up the microphone and her voice was firm and clear. Flight A. Maintain the current altitude, circle and wait in the designated area, and it is expected to land in 5 minutes. Another flight. Prepare to descend and gradually approach the runway according to the established route. Under her command, the originally chaotic air traffic gradually returned to order, and the pilots praised her professional ability. As Evelyn's outstanding performance spread, more and more captains began to notice this girl working in the control center. In the pilot lounge, people often praise Evelyn. Hey, have you noticed? Recently, there is a girl with a very sweet voice in the control center. She is also very capable. Every time I communicate with her, it is very smooth. A captain said with a smile. Another captain also nodded and agreed. Yes, when I was on a mission yesterday, it was thanks to her precise command that the landing process was so smooth. These words of praise reached David's ears through various channels. David was happy and upset when he heard everyone's evaluation of Evelyn. Happy is that Evelyn's efforts and talents are recognized by everyone. She is like a bright star finally shining in her own field. Uncomfortable is that this feeling is like a treasure that he has treasured for many years, which is suddenly discovered by everyone and everyone is coveting it. He recalled every bit of getting along with Evelyn from meeting in high school to the later fake marriage. They seemed to have a special bond between them. Once, after David completed a flight mission, he chatted with several captains. The topic unconsciously turned to Evelyn. One of the captains smiled and said to David, "David, do you know Evelyn in the control center? She's such an outstanding girl. It would be great if I could make friends with her." David's heart tightened slightly when he heard this. He smiled and replied, "Yes, she is indeed very outstanding, but she is so busy at work that she has no time to make friends with us." After that, Evelyn's smile appeared in his mind, and an inexplicable possessiveness quietly grew in his heart. Chapter 6. Malicious Provocation. Since high school, Olivia has always been around David like a shadow. At that time, she always found various excuses to get close to David. Whether she was cheering for him on the basketball court or actively discussing homework with him in the classroom, her eyes always flashed with admiration for David. As time passed, Olivia became a flight attendant with her own efforts. She often appeared on David's flights, and the frequent encounters between the two gradually spread rumors in the airport that she was going to be with David. These rumors spread quickly among the airport staff like wings. Olivia found David and Evelyn chatting together several times, and her heart was suddenly filled with jealousy and unwillingness. She felt that Evelyn's appearance broke her fantasy of being with David. So Olivia decided to take the initiative. One day, she deliberately waited on the road that Evelyn had to take after get off work. When Evelyn appeared, Olivia immediately greeted her with a seemingly friendly but slightly sarcastic smile on her face. "Hey Evelyn, long time no see," Olivia said with a deliberate intimacy in her tone. Evelyn saw that it was her and she couldn't help but be alert, but she still responded politely, "Hello Olivia, what's the matter?" Olivia raised her chin slightly and her eyes revealed disdain. "I won't beat around the bush, you and David are too close. You should know that David and I have known each other since high school. For so many years, our relationship is not something you can easily interfere with." Evelyn frowned and was about to refute when David's voice came from behind. "Olivia, what are you doing here?" David walked quickly to Evelyn's side with a hint of displeasure in his eyes. When Olivia saw David, she immediately looked aggrieved. "David, I just came to chat with Evelyn." David looked at Olivia seriously and said, "I hope you won't do this again. Evelyn and I are married, this is a fact. Please stop pestering me and don't spread those false rumors outside." When Olivia heard David's words, the smile on her face disappeared instantly, replaced by shock and anger. "Marriage? How can you get married?" David said firmly, "This is true, we are very happy. I hope you can respect us and yourself." After that, David took Evelyn's hand and turned away, leaving Olivia standing there blankly, with jealousy and resentment in her heart becoming stronger. Chapter 7. Misunderstanding. Recently, a captain at the airport always asks about Evelyn, which makes David feel uncomfortable. Every time he sees the captain talking about Evelyn with others, David feels a nameless anger rising. At first, he didn't realize what was going on, but felt that he was particularly concerned about this matter. Until one day when he saw the captain greet Evelyn with a smile on his face and Evelyn responded politely, David's heart suddenly tugged, and he realized that he had fallen in love with Evelyn without knowing it. After realizing this feeling, David couldn't wait to confess to Evelyn. He carefully selected a jewelry store and chose the most exquisite diamond ring among the dazzling array of rings. He imagined how happy Evelyn would be when she put on the ring, and the corners of his mouth rose unconsciously. However, just as he paid the money and was about to leave with the ring, a familiar figure came into his sight. Olivia. Olivia saw the ring box in David's hand and immediately became suspicious. She had been paying close attention to David's every move, and at this moment she almost immediately concluded that the ring was what David wanted to give to Evelyn. Her eyes instantly became fierce, and the jealousy in her heart burned like a raging fire. "No, this must not happen. Olivia gritted her teeth secretly. She always felt that David and Evelyn's marriage was just a temporary measure, not out of love. She firmly believed that she was the most suitable person for David. So, Olivia walked quickly to the counter, pointed at the ring that David had just bought and said loudly, "I want to buy the same ring as him." Although the clerk was a little surprised, he still packed the ring for her according to her request. Olivia held the ring, secretly calculating her plan in her heart, and a smug sneer appeared on her face. The next day Olivia couldn't wait to find Evelyn. She deliberately shook her fingers in front of Evelyn, and the ring sparkled in the sun. "Evelyn, look," Olivia said proudly, "this is the ring David gave me. It's the same thing, but I have it first. Your marriage with David is only temporary, and the person he loves is me after all." When Evelyn saw the ring, she felt her head buzzing, and her heart was instantly in turmoil. Her hands unconsciously clenched and her eyes were slightly red. "Am I really not worthy of David? He actually likes Olivia." Evelyn was full of self-doubt, and those beautiful moments seemed to become illusory. But soon, Evelyn calmed down. She took a deep breath and thought to herself, "Even if David really wants to divorce me, I don't regret it. Just think of this as a period for my years of secret love." In the evening, David asked Evelyn to have dinner at a luxurious restaurant with great expectation. He carefully arranged the table, surrounded by flowers, and the candlelight was swaying, which was extremely romantic. Evelyn walked into the restaurant and saw all this, but her heart was mixed. David saw Evelyn and immediately went up to her, his eyes full of love and nervousness. "Evelyn, I have something to say to you." David took a deep breath and said with courage, "In fact, I have fallen in love with you a long time ago. You have walked into my heart unknowingly for a long time." As he said, he took out the ring and slowly opened the box. "This ring is carefully selected for you. Will you marry me?" Evelyn looked at the ring that was exactly the same as the one on Olivia's hand, and an indescribable feeling surged in her heart. But she still decided not to wrong herself. She looked into David's eyes and said calmly, "David, Olivia came to me today wearing the same ring as yours. She said you gave it to her and said that our marriage is only temporary." After hearing this, David widened his eyes in surprise. He never expected Olivia to do such a thing. "Evelyn, don't believe her. I never had such thoughts. I really fell in love with you and this ring is for you." David explained eagerly, "Give me a chance, let me handle this matter, and I will definitely give you a satisfactory explanation." Chapter 8. A Happy Destination. The next day, David brought Evelyn to the airport early in the morning. He was determined to make Olivia explain the matter clearly and give Evelyn justice. Evelyn was a little nervous, and her fingers unconsciously tugged at the corner of her clothes. David patted her hand gently and gave her a comforting look. "Don't worry, I'm here." In the airport terminal, they soon found Olivia, who was busy. Olivia saw David and Evelyn coming together, and she was secretly proud of herself. She thought her plan had succeeded, and a barely noticeable smile appeared on her face. She walked up to them and pretended to be innocent and said, "David, Evelyn, why are you here?" David looked serious, staring straight at Olivia, and said loudly, "Olivia, why did you lie? Why did you make up a lie about the ring to deceive Evelyn?" His voice echoed in the terminal, and the passengers and staff around him cast curious eyes. Olivia didn't expect David to question her so directly. She panicked, cold sweat broke out on her forehead and her face turned pale as paper. She opened her mouth and wanted to defend herself, but found that her throat was so dry that she couldn't make a sound. After a long while she stammered, I just love you too much, David, I want to be with you, I didn't mean it." Her voice became smaller and smaller, and her eyes were full of panic and helplessness. David snorted coldly, took Evelyn's hand, faced the crowd around him, and said loudly, "Everyone listen, Evelyn and I are really in love and we are already married. Olivia, these actions are really excessive." When the people around heard David's words, they looked down on Olivia and whispered, "I didn't expect her to be such a person, so immoral." "That's right, it's shameful to destroy other people's marriages." These discussions were like sharp swords stabbing Olivia. David looked at Olivia and said firmly, "Olivia, you must apologize to Evelyn." Olivia lowered her head and trembled slightly. She never thought that things would turn out like this. Under the gaze of everyone, she felt as if she was standing on a huge pillar of shame. After hesitating for a long time, Olivia slowly raised her head and looked at Evelyn and said in a crying voice, "Evelyn, I'm sorry I was wrong." After that she couldn't stand the eyes of the people around her anymore, turned around, covered her face and fled the terminal hall in shame. Evelyn looked at Olivia's departing back, and a big stone in her heart finally fell to the ground. She turned her head and looked at David, her eyes full of emotion and love. "Thank you, David, for doing so much for me." David gently embraced Evelyn in his arms and said gently, "Silly, you're welcome. You're the one I love most. How could I let you be wronged?" In the envious eyes of the passengers around, David and Evelyn hugged each other tightly. They knew that after this incident their relationship would be more solid, and they would work together to face any difficulties in the future. After solving Olivia's problem, life returned to normal. David had been thinking about giving Evelyn a special proposal. He went to many jewelry stores, communicated with designers repeatedly, and customized a unique ring in the world. The ring has an elegant arc, the diamond in the middle is dazzling, and Evelyn's favorite sapphire is inlaid around it. On the day of the proposal, David specially asked Evelyn to come to the airport. David had quietly gathered his colleagues at the airport and hid around. As soon as Evelyn arrived, David strode to meet her and knelt on one knee. Colleagues around him came out one after another, cheering, "Promise him. Promise him." David's face was full of affection, holding up the ring and saying, "Eve, you have entered my heart since a long time ago. I love you. Because you are you, the girl who makes my heart beat. This ring is as unique as you. Marry me, okay?" Evelyn's eyes were red, surprised and happy, and she nodded vigorously, "I do." Everyone applauded. Whistles and cheers came one after another. David put the ring on Evelyn, stood up and hugged her tightly. On a sunny weekend, David and Evelyn returned to the high school campus. They walked hand in hand on the familiar path, reminiscing about the past. Walking to the alleyway, Evelyn stopped with a hint of shyness on her face and whispered, "David, there is something I have always wanted to tell you. In fact, I have liked you since you helped me drive away the bullies in high school. For so many years, you have always been the one in my heart." David was surprised and happy and gently held Evelyn's face, his eyes full of heartache and love. "It turns out that I am the secret hidden in your heart. It's my fault that I discovered it too late. But it doesn't matter, I will never leave in the future." Evelyn leaned in David's arms and the two were immersed in sweetness. The secret love in the past turned into happiness at this moment. In the future they will have countless good times together.